Okay, so today I want to talk about Selaco. That's right, no preamble, no funny lead-ins, or at least I hope they're funny. Just flat out Selaco. I've been wanting to play this game ever since I reviewed the demo for it over on DuoQ when that was a thing. May it rest in peace, and may he rest in peace. Oh, he's not dead. He's just got no time for it anymore, so he's dead to me. I'm joking. Love you, Dion. That's just how our friendship works. Anyway, I know I said there's no preamble, but that was just a lie, apparently. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Selaco is a complicated beast of a shooter to talk about. Not because of anything wrong it does, but rather because I don't really know how to categorize it. Of the shooters I've played both recently and a long time ago, it by far fits in the more Half-Life-y and Doomy category, with very open maps in each level, big and small, with secrets and enemies littered throughout. Secrets that at the time of writing this I'm trying to find on a different save file, but the shooting of Selaco also feels modern. Like, if you played any shooter that's come out in the last 5 years, you'll feel very comfortable playing it. So in other words, it doesn't really go for that retro boomer shooter style where it's supposed to feel old school. It feels like a modern shooter in the aesthetic of a boomer shooter, if that makes sense. I had a lot of fun with Selaco's combat as well as its environment design. There's a sense of journey you get from Selaco's levels, and sometimes it can feel a bit overwhelming with how much detail is packed into each level. And no, I'm not being hyperbolic. It genuinely feels overwhelming to me at times. Not in a bad way, just in a way that I'm just like, I can't believe there's so much to interact with in each level. How long do I need to spend here before I can actually move on? Not complaining, I just can't. It feels like a Bethesda game. And now, mind you, calm down. What I mean by that is, it feels like a Bethesda game in the sense that I can't help but press E or pick up everything I can see and see if I can throw it, see if I can mess with it. Everything, just about everything. It's interactable. That's what I mean. And when I say journey, what I really mean is each level feels interconnected because it's literally connected to each other. Other shooters out there sometimes jump you around to different places. You'll wonder, how'd I get here? How'd I get there? It's like, don't pay attention to that. This is a new level. Here you go. Because you're essentially hoofing it from zone to zone to zone, the journey feels longer than what you would probably get in a game where technically the levels are connected to one another, but they're typically separated by a cutscene. No, most of the time in Selaco, you're just hoofing it. That's what helps lend to the feeling of, I started all the way over there and now I'm all the way over here. Wow. Going back to the whole interactivity and levels and stuff, if you see some food and you're below a certain threshold, eat some, you'll get some health back. If you see a crack in the wall and think you could break it with a grenade, most likely you can. Not every wall, but most of them you can. If you want to buy a drink from a vending machine out of desperation to heal, then you can do that too. There are even these vending machines that will top off your health and satirically mouth off about how you should give them more money because, let's face it, money is no object once you're dead. Beyond that, those vending machines can also boost your health beyond its regular limits. So not only do those vending machines really help you with your health, but they also have a sense of humor, much like the game can at times. But don't think this is a comedy. There are some wicked shenanigans going on in this game. Wicked, I tell you. Shenanigans, I say. Perhaps maybe even a wee bit of wit. No, I'm not sorry. But once again, I've gone ahead of myself. Here's a brief synopsis of the story, which isn't fully in your face, nor is it fully finished. I'll get to the latter bit in a moment. From the synopsis on the Steam page, Selaco's story takes place during a violent invasion on, well, Selaco, a space station that's home to the surviving refugees after the fall of Earth. You play as Dawn, an ace security captain who, with her recent promotion and high-level security clearances, is digging deep into the truth behind Selaco's murky history. Once again, I repeat, shenanigans. Also, I'll take back the whole it's not really in your face thing I said earlier. The game really does break it down to you in the first couple levels. I just thought I might have been missing something with how weird this game got in the latter half. That, and by not fully in your face, I really just mean there is no cinematic or cutscene that pulls you out of the gameplay to give you exposition. So you mostly get told the story through what you see going on in front of you during gameplay, as well as with notes and stuff you find on computers that kind of do a bit of world building about what was going on in the world before the invasion, as well as what's going on during the invasion, i.e. there was someone at this desk a moment ago typing something out and then they skedaddled somewhere else, and then you come across the computer and realize, oh my gosh, Jane cheated on Brad in the office. That has nothing to do with the with the greater plot. It's just what some of the kind of stuff you could find here and there, just people going about their day-to-days. It's kind of fun. As you can see, I'm a sucker for world building, especially world building that doesn't focus solely on the plot, but also just tells you about what the general public were doing prior to those events. Because in some games, I find it weird when you find notes for characters that aren't involved with the main story, but their notes have to do with something in the main story. I'm like, I get that this is just a mechanic to get me to understand something I need to do or be aware of something that's coming, but it's nice when you get the occasional letter or email or whatever that you're reading in a game and it has nothing to do with it, and you could tell this place was actually lived in at some point and it doesn't all center around what the player is doing. That's all I'm really talking about. Anyway, I did that thing where I tangent and I forget where I was at before. Yeah, okay. Not fully finished. That's what I wanted to mention earlier. So you see, Selaco is an early access title. Personally speaking, I have nothing against early access as a concept, but it really depends on how dedicated the team putting in the work is, or in some cases how deep their pockets are. I've played many great games that came out of early access: Baldur's Gate 3, Sons of the Forest, Subnautica, The Works. I've also played my share of bad games that have come out of early access and have no sign of being updated. Thankfully, Selaco falls into the former, despite still being in early access. At the time of writing, Selaco's only got its first chapter out, with 2 more on the way. But make no mistake, when I say the first chapter, I mean 7 levels broken into about 31 to 33 maps. So if you're on, say, level 1, you're actually going to go level 1, level 1-1, level 1-2, and level 1-3 before you get to level 2. The entirety of chapter 1 will take you about 8 to 10 hours to complete. And like I said, the game isn't even done yet, so I'm very much looking forward to see what happens next. Although from what I'm seeing online, chapter 2 and chapter 3 are going to be shorter than chapter 1, which in my opinion is a good thing. If they got any bigger and if the story got any longer, yeah, that would probably be very detrimental to them. In short, the story is interesting and mostly told through some rare voice dialogue and many data pads you will find. Sorry, there's a siren going by. You get the point. Story good, many pads, let's keep it going. Now I want to trail back to gameplay real quick because I want to get a little more specific in that vein. Because earlier I kind of just summed it up as it feels modern despite having the skin of a boomer shooter, but I want to get more specific. The gunplay of Selaco feels great and all, but so does the movement and destructible environment. Dawn doesn't sprint, but she can slide on a cooldown, and do not underestimate how useful that slide is, especially on higher difficulties. This is the first-person shooter that I've willingly played on what can be considered the hard or veteran difficulty, or commander difficulty in this case, and man did it feel like it. I dabbled in the equivalent of normal mode for a bit, but I really wanted to feel pain for some reason, so I went back to commander difficulty. And by went back to, I mean I started over. I wasn't super far into the game by that point. I was still in level 1 or level 2, so going back and starting over didn't really bother me. I think now with a recent update, I don't recall off the top of my head, so future Daryl, put on the screen whether or not there is an update now that actually lets you swap the difficulty, but I think there's a difficulty change you can do now. At the time there wasn't though when I played it, but I'm just saying this so that you don't go into it thinking, oh boy, I could change the difficulty whenever I want. I don't want you to be misled, so I'm just telling you. Anyway, going back to that slide though, it saved my butt on multiple occasions. Use it. And as I mentioned earlier, the game also has highly destructible environments with their own unique sprites and animations when they're destroyed. So not only is it satisfying and immersive, but it's also very helpful so you can get your enemies out of cover, because I'm going to explain it more later. Those enemies don't play. And by later, I mean now. I want to talk about the invasion tier system. So essentially, as you play and get further into the game, this tier line of different modifiers gets added to the enemies you'll face, making them more difficult as you go. This can range from something as simple as, we get a bit more damage to our base damage, to, we can throw shields down now, to, we have the ability to stun you in more ways than just that one before, to, we can throw new grenades, and etc. Oh, the dreaded etc. This keeps combat from getting too repetitive, at least in my opinion. That said, gameplay feels so good, they probably didn't even need that system to begin with, at least not in my opinion. I'm happy it's there, I'm very happy. I'm sorry, someone tried to call me, and I have Last Surprise as my ringtone, and I cut it off at the most inopportune moment. Thank you, scam caller, because that was pretty funny. Anyway, I really like the invasion tier system. It helps change up gameplay the further I get into the game, and it's a nice bonus, and on top of that, it made my commander playthrough of Chapter 1 even harder than it probably would have been if I just played on the normal difficulty. I know I sound bitter, but I'm not actually. I'm not even mad. I'm just impressed. Stepping away from gameplay, I want to give a quick shout out to the options menu. How's my homie doing? Anyway, the game is heavily customizable, from the HUD to the graphics to whether or not you want Dawn's animations to show when she interacts with objects, to the enemy blood, to the audio, to the mods, to the window, to the walls, to the sweat drops down my ball, and more. No, I haven't messed with mods yet, but I want to. One last thing that I want to talk about, and that's the most obvious thing that I normally start these videos out with: visuals. Selaco is a heavily stylized looking game with some anime influences, but also this blend of retro 3D and 2D sprite environments. Dawn, from what I could see, is a full 3D model, which is a bit jarring since the enemies are not 3D models, but it works for some reason. It's probably the best looking game of its kind that I've played recently. Not saying the other games look bad, they actually looked good too. It's just this one, I was legit just like, damn, this looks good the whole time. I'm trying really hard to think of what else I can say about Selaco right now, but frankly, I think I should just leave it at that and tell you to go play it yourself, because you will not regret it. I will boldly say that. So, to the surprise of no one, Selaco gets a go for it from me, and you can play it on PC for $25, specifically Windows and Linux. There isn't a console version, and I haven't looked up whether or not there would be one day or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if we did get a console version down the line, so keep your ears open. And with that, I've wrapped up this review. The next shooter I'm going to review will require me to put my dreads into a mullet, so I'll be back once I figure that out. So I hope you've enjoyed your stay. I'm TUSDarryl, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye! Hey Alexa, how do I style my dreads into a mullet? It's very important.